Hey everybody, just have a fairly quick video just talking a little bit more about standard form. We're going to do one example and then we're going to have one more example that I want you to do yourselves and write down in your notebooks and bring it to class tomorrow so I can look at it. So one of the questions that comes up a lot with standard form if you're looking at it is why would we ever write an equation like this? Why would we ever get an equation like this? It seems to be just a harder version of all of our other equations, um, which is true maybe when it comes to graphing, but I'll show you one example where standard form is actually a lot better and it's a lot easier to write the equation. So here's a good example of something that really lends itself well to writing the equation in standard form. So a GameSpot buys old PS3 games for 50 cents each and Xbox 360 games for 25 cents each. You're trying to earn $80 to buy the new Star Wars Battlefront game and some DLC. How can this be done? So there's a bunch of different ways that you could probably think of that you could do this, and those would all be points on a line. One way you could do this is you could sell only PS3 games and no Xbox 360 games. Eventually you'd get enough money, or you could sell no PS3 games and all Xbox 360 games, and eventually you'd get enough money. So we're trying to get $80. So first of all, let's define our variables. We're interested in what combination of games is going to get the job done. What combination of these two different games is going to get us $80? Well, we want to know the number of Xbox games and we want to know the number of PS3 games. Those are the two things that we need to know. We already know the total is 80. We already know that. So let's see here. Our total is 80. You could think of that as C. That's our total. So how do we get $80? Well, we need to sell some Xbox games and some PS3 games. We get the money from our Xbox games, we get the money from our PS3 games, and we add those together and hopefully we get $80. So what do we want to multiply this X by? We don't want to just add X and Y together because we don't get $1 per game. We want to multiply this X by 0.25. Because if we sell one game, we actually only get 25 cents. If we sell two games, we get 50 cents. Let's see here. What do we want to multiply the Y by? 0.5. Because we only get 50 cents per game. So there's a bunch of different solutions to this equation. They would be XY pairs. So you can graph this equation by just finding two of them. And I'll show you the easiest two to find. The easiest way and the simplest way to do this is to find the X and Y intercepts. So remember our Y-intercept is some point that's along here. Some point along there. X is 0 all along here, right? X is 0. And then our X-intercept is where Y is 0. Somewhere along here, Y is 0. At some point, Y is going to be 0. At some point, X is going to be 0. The question is, what Y will make X 0 in this equation? Well, let's think about it. So if X is 0, that means that we sold no Xbox 360 games. So we only sold PS3 games for 50 cents each, and it came out to be $80. So this is something you could probably figure out in your head, but what you could do is you could just cover this 0.25x completely up, right? Because we don't need it, because x is 0. So we could basically cover that up. Some people call this the cover-up method. And then you're just solving this equation right here. 0.5y equals 80. Well, half of what is 80? That would be 160. And then let's figure out what x would have to be if y was 0. So if y was 0, you're basically crossing this out. And we're saying, well, y is 0, so that doesn't really matter. So what would x have to be? 0.25x equals 80? Well, a quarter of what number is 80? That would be 320. So there we got 2 points. We got our x and y intercepts. They look like that. We would just put a comma in between them. Just like that. So our y-intercept is right there. That's when x is 0. And our x-intercept is when y is 0. All right, so what do those numbers mean in the context of the problem? Well, when they say in the context of the problem, they mean put it back into words. Look back at this and say what it means. Well, what it means is this y-intercept here, it says you would need to sell 160 PS3 games if you sold 0 Xbox games to make your $80. Our x-intercept says you would need to sell 320 Xbox 360 games if you sold no PS3 games, again, in order to make your $80. So that's that explanation that they want. And remember, just like in class today, you can use these 2 points to graph the equation. We'll do that maybe real quick. So let's think here. We need a pretty big scale in this graph. So let's maybe make each line 50. So let's get our y-intercept in there first. So 50, 100, 150, 160 is about right there, let's call it. And then 320, 0, let's call these 50 as well. So 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350. So we want to be about right there. So these are 2 ways that we could make $80, there and there. But there's a bunch of other ways we could also make $80, and they're all the points that are on a line directly between them. All these points right here. This line should technically go on forever in both directions. Like maybe I'd want to draw arrows, but we can't actually have negative games being sold. That doesn't make any sense. So I only keep this in the positive quadrant, quadrant 1. All right. So I want you guys to take a look at this problem right here. And this is the problem that I'd like for you guys to do in your notebooks and bring this to class tomorrow. I'll see you then.